Information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and we are delighted that you have joined us today. Our show is all about engaging conversation, elevating health and wellness, and empowering transformation. And no matter which way that you've tuned into us, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We want to stay connected to you. In addition to that, remember that at the bottom of your screen, you will see a tab for show notes that will have reference information about today's episode, takeaway points, and impactful information concerning our next guest. And as we're elevating and we're wrapping things up for 2023, going into 2024, it's very important that that level of self-care is at the top spot. And I'm excited to introduce to you my next guest. She is all about doing that for women and so much more. So as we begin, take a look at this clip. Meet Tina Huynh, certified meditation teacher, dynamic entrepreneur, and wellness advocate from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Tina's professional journey is a blend of psychology, nutrition, and personal well-being. She empowers women to overcome destructive emotional eating patterns through her online coaching. Certified in sound healing, mind-body eating coaching, and Reiki, Tina integrates her knowledge into a holistic approach to wellness and self-worth. Her personal story is equally inspiring. Tina battled an eating disorder, losing herself in the process. She knows what it means to be a people pleaser and the struggle of losing one's identity. Yet, she embarked on a journey of self-discovery, embracing meditation, yoga, and self-love practices. Today, Tina is a beacon of joy and holistic health, advocating for mindful eating, soul nourishment, and the synergy of a strong body and nourished soul for a fulfilled life. She is a testament to the power of transformation and the pursuit of well-being. Tina Huynh, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much for having me, Adriana. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, you know what I love about what you stand for is you have such a strong platform and a level of compassion to really take care of the body and the soul and all of that. At what point along your journey was that ever critical for you to take charge and take it to a next level?
Well, I used to have an eating disorder for a really long time in my 20s. So I basically had to learn how to be, compassionate to myself. And self-love was like a foreign concept to me back then. So I had to go through this process of learning what it is to take care of myself, of learning what my body needs and like nourishing myself, giving myself what my body craves. I had to go through all of that in order to even just start my own healing journey.
And as we go through that, was this something that was important to you growing up, or was there a level of necessary self-discovery on your path?
So I come from an immigrant family and our mothers are very direct. So I grew up with my mom consistently telling me that I needed to lose weight, but I was like a normal child, right? Normal sized child. But she was always like, you would be so much cuter if you just lost a little bit of weight. So that was a little bit like toxic growing up with that. But so I always had it in my mind that I had to lose weight. And I feel like a lot of girls in our generation, we kind of grew up with that because it was in the culture, it was in the media, it was the time of the super skinny supermodel, right? So I feel like a lot of our generation are just so like programmed to want to lose weight. And so when my journey occurred and when I started to actually lose weight, I didn't have good information. So when I started my dieting journey, it didn't start off well. I started restricting way too many calories, basically starving myself. And it just led me down this path of destruction basically to my own body. So I had to undo all of that. I had to learn. I had to do a ton of research. So for most of my 20s, that's what I was doing. Even within the enthralls of my eating disorder, I was researching like what is the best way to lose weight. So I guess fitness has always been top of mind for me, and nutrition. I've also owned a restaurant previously as well, so I love food and I'm really good at cooking. And just putting it all together now and helping people with their nutrition is really so magical right now.
As I'm hearing, I didn't know that you had a restaurant or that you owned a restaurant. That's quite exciting in terms of making a name for yourself and really embracing success. What was the message that you got? What was the definition of success for you growing up? What did you hear and what was conditioned for you?
As a child, it was like getting good grades and just performing at your best. And that's what success was like told to me by my parents. It was like, you have to get better grades, you have to perform, you should be constantly studying. And I also have ADHD. So studying was very, very hard for me. So, like, as the student that I was with ADHD, I couldn't study well, and I did not get good grades. And according to my mother, I had weight to lose. So I was just growing up with like, just success was always out of reach. And I was always striving to, get that validation from my parents, and I never did. And I think that's kind of what led me to my eating disorder too, because it was kind of like, if I could only lose weight, then like I will feel successful, then I will feel good about myself. And it put so much pressure on me mentally in order to actually lose the weight. And then I crumbled under the pressure pretty much.
So, in terms of ambition, what did that look like for you? What was the epitome of you obtaining all that you wanted to? Your level of ambition as you were becoming a woman, as you were trailblazing, if you will. And did you have any moments where you had personal breakthroughs in defining who you were?
My ambition now is all centered around the business that I'm building and building the life that I want for myself. And that does not look like the life that my mother wanted me to build for her or build for myself through her lens. So it's going against, traditional family values and stuff like that in order to build the life that I want for myself. And it's been a hard road to go against your mother's wishes, but it really gives me so much more pleasure, helping women transform and helping them realize that they don't have to be controlled by food. So just that in itself is such a driving factor of why I do what I do. I just love to help people, and I really hope to help people heal themselves, and just to prevent them from going down the path that I could. If I could just impact even one person and prevent her from doing what I did, it means the world to me.
One of the things that I love that the show does is just help to highlight some of the backstory and levels of success that guests have had. And you brought something up that really struck me just now, and that was that your relationship with your mother was a pivotal one in that it made an impact in your decision making with what direction you were going. And as somebody who also felt in that direction with my own mother, I found that there was a point where you have to make some hard decisions. And I'm wondering for you, I'm curious, and then other viewers tuning in, was there an element that you knew that hearing what family was telling you, but then making a choice that was most appropriate? Was there an element that you needed to consider that was part of the landscape for you to decide how you were forging your path?
I think I just kind of felt in my heart that, whatever I did, it just never felt like it was enough for my parents. And so just realizing that, like, well, if it's never going to be enough, then I just do what I need to do in order to make me happy. Because trying to make them happy was making me miserable. And I was so miserable in my life that I couldn't picture a future for myself. Like, I didn't have plans for the future. I didn't really have goals because I was so focused on trying to make other people happy. And when it wasn't my parents, it was like my exes and the relationships I was in. I was always centered around making other people happy. And because of that, I myself was miserable. Or I discovered that, like, when I woke up to what I was doing, then I discovered that I was actually miserable and like this was not working at all. So I really had to come back to myself. Like I said earlier, like that journey of self love and self compassion, I had zero self awareness when I started on this path. And it's just been a whole lot of just like paying attention back to myself. Like, what is it that I truly want from this life? And what is it that I desire? And like, even what is the legacy that I want to leave? Like, how do I want people to remember me? Because if I'm just living towards other people's goals and ambitions for me, that's not going to make an impact in the way that I want to make an impact. So really just like getting to know myself has been the one thing that has helped me succeed in all of this, I guess.
Do you think that society's trends and what we as women experience, do you think that we use our voice enough as women, or do you see patterns that strike you as a much more common thread with women and then using our voices?
I definitely don't think women use their voice enough, and I wish that we did. I believe that when women are in power, we I think women believe that there's enough to share for everybody, right? And a rising tide lifts all ships. So for me, I believe that when women are in power, we kind of bring everyone in the whole community around us because women are so community focused and we understand the power of community. Whereas the opposite, where capitalism, it's like Amazon just ruling everything. Where like I believe because Canva is created by a woman and she's a billionaire as well, and like she uses her money and she gives back. So I wish that more women were in power, and that's what I love about this journey as well. Because if I can empower women, then I'm doing my part in helping society and like just empowering women so that they can do what they were meant to do and bring the whole community forward.
Take me back to your first breakthrough, your first where you broke a ceiling over your head. What were some things that were part of that experience that taught you things that are still with you today?
Um, well, I'm gonna circle it back to my eating disorder. Like when it was at its worst, I don't know how it happened, but I just kind of had like this flash of a moment where I was like, if I just continue on this path, then I'm going to die because I was treating my body so poorly, and I wasn't giving myself any nutrition or anything, and like the cycle was just so bad. And thankfully, I realized that I did not want to die. And that was the turning point for me where I just kind of reminded myself, like through my healing journey, because it's never linear. We always have like relapses. But I had to remind myself in my healing journey that like I am meant for more than this. Like this does not have to be my life. Um, and I can have the impact that I want. Like that moment is what kind of sparked me to be like, I need to live this life for myself because how I'm doing it now, like trying to appease other people is literally killing me. So I needed to fight for myself in that moment. And I think I just kind of look back at that moment every now and then when I realize that I'm losing myself again because, society starts to take over and we start to forget everything that we learned. I just have to think back on that time and be like, what is it that I need right now in order to succeed? Because like simply put, I know the kind of person that I am, and I know that if I take care of myself and if I'm happy, then I give back. I'm not like that I'm not a hoarder, I'm not selfish. Like when I'm happy, then I give, because when my cup is overflowing, then I have room to help others and give to others as well.
You bring a powerful point to the surface that you can't pour from an empty cup. And that's absolutely true. What were some ways, as you were becoming stronger internally and going forth, getting better at your health, what were some things that really that surprised you, that helped you get stronger?
I think one of the funniest things that I realized was that my mother didn't have the answer to everything. I kind of came to that realization very late in my life. Because I used to think that like she was, like the almighty, and she had all the answers, and I needed to listen to her because she knew the best, and she, like, mother knows all, right? But then when I came to that realization, I was like, it kind of started with my mom, and then it kind of spread because I was such a people pleaser that anyone that would tell me anything, I would just believe them. And I gave everybody authority over myself. I had no authority over myself. So when I made that realization, I was like, wait, my mom, she doesn't have the answer. She's figuring it out for herself as she goes. And then it kind of trickled into other people. And I'm like, wait, he doesn't have the answers either. He has no idea what he's doing, actually. So it kind of gave me permission to be myself, to be silly, and like, because everybody is figuring out as they go. Nobody really knows what's going to happen, a year from now, 10 years from now. It's so hard for us to predict the future. So when I was able to kind of kick everybody else off of their pedestal, it was like, okay, well, I probably know what's best for me if I just keep listening and keep paying attention, or even just like keep trying, just like shoot all of the shots, see what sticks, and just keep going.
You bring up an incredible point, and that's something that I can relate to you on, and that's the societal pressures, the cultural pressures within family, that there comes a point where it is healthy to step forward and address what is appropriate and what's not. And I think that there's a lot of cultural pressures. My family is originally from South America, and that I think that it if we are able to address it and allow and give ourselves permission to not blindly accept but to evolve with the times, we grow into better people versus just blindly adhering to simply cultural traditions within family and not acknowledging what truly makes us grow. Would you agree that this was something that you felt that was a milestone, perhaps an internal milestone for you to address and then be able to take that foot forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like when you ask them, like, why do we do this? Why do we do that? Or when I used to argue with my parents, they would be like, it's because I said so. And you weren't allowed to question anything, right? And like when you start questioning, that's kind of when you understand, like, maybe there's no logic behind it. Maybe there's no reason. So maybe that's not the right way to do it. And maybe they're just doing it because that's what they taught. And that was the answer that their parents gave them. Right. It's like, there's no blame to be put on my mother. She loves me. I love her. She did the best that she could. But like, it's just like with every generation, we realize the mistakes of the previous generation and we can improve. And I think that's why it's so important that like we just keep learning and keep talking about it, because there's so much information out there nowadays, and there's so much room for growth, and like, why not grow?
And conversations like this are important to have so that so that there's adjustment along the way. And you're right, the I told you so just does, or the I said so rather, just doesn't hold as much weight, in all truth be told.
Yeah,
So
no.
we're going to take a commercial break. We will be right back after this. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. A big shout out and thanks to our sponsor, Biomed Mobile IV, Colorado's top mobile IV services. And my guest today, Tina Huynh, certified meditation teacher, wellness advocate, and entrepreneur who's extremely passionate about leading women on the journey to a better health. And Tina, we were talking before the break about your particular journey and breakthroughs, and take us through your transition to leading women. What were some of the things that you were able to implement as you began to work with women, and what are some other trends that you noticed we need to pay attention to in women?
Well, so I started off, I always knew that I wanted my own business because growing up with my parents, they had their own business. And I knew that I wanted something of my own outside of my family. So I've been working on building that business for a long time now. And I noticed that a lot of, wellness influencers these days are talking a lot about toxicity, and they're saying like this is toxic, that is toxic, and like sugar is toxic, and like milk is toxic, like don't do that, don't do that. There's so many conflicting messages out there, and like I really think anything that you want to say regarding nutrition, you can find backup for that. Whether it be like sugar is good for you or sugar is toxic, you'll find both sides. And so it's so confusing for people when they're not from a fitness and nutrition background, or when they don't have, science studies. They believe all of this stuff. And then it's like, well, I can't have white bread, but I can't have whole bread, and I can't have sugar, and I can't have milk. Like, what am I supposed to be eating then? So I think it's really important to watch out for that, because if you're just demonizing food all around, then you're just leaving people with nothing left to eat. And it's so frustrating for people most of the time, because then it just kind of feels like you can't avoid all of those things. So then they just give up and they don't try. So I like to tell people that, everything in moderation. Sugar is not bad for you. Milk is not bad for you. Just like listen to your body and really pay attention to what you eat. Like, what is good for you. Obviously, if you're eating food that comes out of boxes every single day, and it's just like you microwave it and that's it, then you inherently know that that is not a healthy diet to sustain forever. So just eat food that is whole most of the time, even if you just focus on it maybe like 51% of the time. It's an improvement, right? All that I really want people to focus on is just making an improvement, whether it's big or small. Actually, small improvements are better because they're more easily sustained. Just know that like it's not as complicated as it kind of seems. Just boil it all down to something simple that you can follow, and you will make improvements that way.
I asked this question earlier in the season to several other guests, and I'll pose the question to you. What role do you see the food industry playing across the last several decades? What impact, and where should we emphasize addressing food related concerns, just as consumers, all of that? What's your take on that?
I do think corporations are to blame, and the government, because of subsidizing sugar and corn. And that's kind of made those things so accessible and so cheap to buy. Like, it doesn't make sense when you can buy a box of cereal for $3, but like two apples also cost you $3. That's not fair. And that doesn't help people, do a healthy diet sustainably when vegetables and healthy food cost so much. So I believe there is definitely a system that is flawed, but I also believe that it is entirely up to the consumer, because at the end of the day, you're controlling what you're eating. So if you're not regularly reading the labels of the food that you're consuming, I think that that's a big problem. I think you should know what you're eating. And that's not to say that I don't eat processed foods or I don't eat chips, but that does not make up the majority of the food that I'm eating. So I think it's a little bit of both, and I totally don't know how to fix it, but I'm here to empower people to do the best that they can.
You know, here in the United States, I know you're in Canada. In the US right now, as of this broadcast, we are looking at roughly 43% of the United States of adults in the US being obese. What do you know about Canada's trends, and are there any similarities that you've seen in terms of your work and just across the board of where we're going in the health and wellness space?
I think we follow the same trends as the United States, being neighbors. I do believe that the obesity population is growing. And like I said, I think it's a systemic problem as well as an individual problem. A systemic problem because Canada is so large. Like the populations are very spread out. So the city that I live in Windsor, you kind of need a car to get around, and it's just not feasible to take public transportation or to walk because it will take you, half an hour to an hour to get somewhere, where if you drove your own car, it'd like take 10 minutes. So like I really wish that, cities could be more walkable, or you could live in places without cars. Cities where people can survive without cars are much healthier than driving cities. So, if I could do anything, I would love to empower the government to build more walkable, friendly neighborhoods with the grocery store and everything is walkable. And when everything is walkable too, you build community more as well. You're not just hopping in your car, going to the store. You don't talk to anybody when you do that, right? But if you have a coffee shop that you can walk to, coffee doesn't cost $8, then you can go there. You can spend time with people, meet your neighbors, because also when we talk about health and longevity, the number one factor that kind of determines whether you live a long, healthy life is the number of positive social interactions and connections that you have. So when you build a walkable city and you're encouraging community, you're encouraging people to get outside, you're encouraging, connection, which counteracts loneliness, and then they're walking and getting outside, which helps depression. So there's just so many layers to it. And I think we're all kind of doing the opposite. Everyone just sits at home and we work from home on our computers and we're sedentary all day. So in order to fight, sedentariness and just working at your desk, you have to be really, really diligent about getting outside and going for walks and making sure you exercise all the time.
I do agree that we sit way too much. And there's a saying that I heard that I've held on to, sitting is the new smoking, being that that's very indicative of the quality of life that we stand to face if we don't move enough. In terms of women, because I want to go ahead and highlight the fact that you work with women, and I'm definitely in that space as well. What are some things that you notice? What are you hearing from women in terms of their health and how to advocate for that self-care, that compassionate approach to the inner self? Because a lot of where we're approaching those actionable steps, it does start from within. What's your take on all of that?
I see that a lot of women don't have time and really struggle with finding time. So, one of the things that I recommend the most is just to do what you can as often as you can. You don't have to dedicate 2 hours to go to the gym every day. If all you have is a 5-minute walk between, classes, or like dropping the kids off or something, then do that, because it all adds up. It doesn't have to be this crazy schedule that you need to adhere to. I say just take the tiny moments wherever you can and capitalize on those, because they do add up. It's like, just because you do 10 jumping jacks and that's all that you have time for, doesn't mean that those 10 jumping jacks achieve nothing. Like if you are coming from a sedentary background, those 10 jumping jacks might, wear you out for a little bit. So just do that like 6 times a day, and it took you like 2 minutes or less than 2 minutes. It just adds up. So when people say that they don't have time, or when women say that they don't have time, I understand, because, everyone's on a crazy tight schedule, especially with kids and everything. But, if you get sick, that's going to take up all of your time and you're going to have no time then. So, find the pockets of time where you can and make the most of them. Like, get a kettlebell. And you can do high intensity workouts, because another thing that I find a lot of women struggle with is that they're scared to lift heavier weight. But you and I both know that, like, in order to really make strong and good gains at the gym, in order to even increase your bone density, which is something that the aging population will struggle with, you have to lift heavy weight, and it has to be hard. And I think, there's still that idea that lifting heavy weights makes women too bulky, and it's not easy to be bulky. You
It's
have.
it's that myth that won't go away, that
I
lifting
know.
heavy weights will make you bulky.
Yeah.
I will say I agree with you on that one.
And I can guarantee, like, if you are looking at a woman and you think she has a body that you like, she probably works out really, really hard and lifts a lot of weight. So, like, don't be scared. Just try it. And I feel like when women do start lifting heavy weight and start feeling stronger, it's so hard. So I'm lifting for a long time now, and there's nothing more empowering than lifting a heavy weight. It just makes you feel so good.
I caught that. I know that you were the emphasis of really moving and executing and pushing through and embodying the strength training piece. I'm curious about the best practices for that internal self-care. How do you connect the dots of really internalizing self-care to where now it becomes a fabric of your foundation? What are some of your favorite best practices that you teach other women to do with regards to self-care?
Definitely the number one thing, which relates to time, like I said before, is resting. Resting is beautiful self-care. We are so on edge all of the time. We're trying to do this and that, and like, we're on this tight schedule. So if you can allow yourself time to rest, that I think is going to be the most beneficial. And even just for me, when I started resting, I used to hate naps. Um, and like, I could never allow myself to rest because I needed to be more productive and I needed to do more. And there was always something else that needed to be done. So to unlearn all of that was really hard. And if anything, like, the one thing that I wish that people could take away from this is just rest more. And then on top of resting, if you're able to just kind of meditate as well, like, as a meditation teacher, I'm going to say meditate too, just so that you can learn your body and learn to listen to your body, because your body is always talking, and meditation kind of helps you pay attention to that a little bit better. And the other thing that meditation teaches you is that you don't have to listen to all of the thoughts that you get. You can just kind of like acknowledge the thought and then let it go. So if we kind of relate that to eating, like, urges and cravings, they're thoughts. So if you can kind of meditate on the thought, and you can kind of just let it go and release that thought, and you can ride the wave, and eventually the craving or the urge goes away too.
So you bring up meditation, and I think it's a powerful tool we're talking about more and more. What do you notice about the pace of more people embracing it, particularly women? What are you noticing in terms of the number of people that are integrating it into their lives, or where do you want to see it go with your experience?
Well, meditation is such a game changer that I really believe everyone should be meditating. And there's a saying that, I don't know who said it, but the saying is, like, if you don't have time to meditate, that means you should meditate twice as long. Um,
Okay.
so it's really that great. And what meditation also teaches you is just how to like pause and respond, because a lot of the times when we do things that we don't like, they're just kind of reactionary impulses. So meditation kind of gives you that, pause before the reaction so that you can really choose what you want to do next. So like I said, with the craving, like most of the time people, when they get a craving, they're just going to go and get whatever it is that they craved. But what meditation teaches you, that like if you can create space between the craving and the action, that's when you can actually make a choice that you want to make. So like when it comes to food, a lot of people say they feel like out of control, and like they're eating without realizing it, and that's because it's a habit or like a crave or an impulse that you're following. But when you can meditate, and when you can meditate on that, you can create space. And instead of just going after the craving, you can start to be like, is this what I really want? Is this what my body actually needs? And just really, really pay attention to your body more.
I think it highlights how much we as a society rely on instant gratification, or maybe as a crow flies, wanting to get the results, wanting to hit our goals or get to the other side, and that the time it would take to get there is not something that we're comfortable with. So how does self-care, how do you integrate all of that with self-care? Because I think that it's that umbrella term, but there's so many components behind it. What's the one theme that you like to embrace in getting to that level of self-care where you can sit with you can be still, and you're able to get clarity? What helps you?
A big part of it is what you said, clarity, like clarity on the life that I want and the life that I'm building, and clarity on what I want for myself. So when I come to a decision and it's like, do I do A or do I do B? I have to have the wherewithal to sit with my thoughts and really analyze both, and honor myself, like choose the one that honors myself and my dream. Because as a former or recovering people pleaser, I would often choose the one that makes other people happy at the sacrifice of myself. And that is when you start to burn out. That's when you run out of energy, because you're constantly doing things for other people. But if you do things that bring you joy, that light you up, then you have more energy. Like when these things are your passion and your purpose, like it's almost like you have an unlimited amount of energy to do that stuff. So burnout happens when you're doing stuff that you don't like or that is not aligned with you. So self-care to me is like staying in alignment, doing the things that bring you joy, and working towards the life that you want. And when I bring that to my business, it's like, I don't want to be doing, 60 to 80-hour weeks anymore like I used to at my restaurant. That's not the lifestyle that I want to build for myself. So when I'm making decisions, self-care is choosing what is going to be best for me in the long term. And, you can rope that back to cravings. When I have a craving for ice cream, self-care might be like, okay, future Tina is not going to like eating this whole tub of ice cream. So self-care is maybe taking a bite of ice cream because it's also delicious, and then putting the rest away and being like, my goals don't align with me eating this entire tub of ice cream. I know after the fact I'm going to regret this decision. So I'm going to take care of future me and eat one bite and then put the rest away.
Definitely. Clarity, very powerful. We're going to take a commercial break. We will be right back. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for watching The Health Revolution. Our show is growing, and it's all thanks to viewers like you. No matter how you found us, please hit the subscribe button so we can stay connected and continue to deliver amazing content to you.
is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been shown that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. My guest today, Tina Huynh, certified meditation teacher, wellness advocate, speaker. She's also a podcast host. And Tina, we were talking about the level of self-care and how integral it is with all that you do in your work. Talk to us a little bit about how you work specifically, calls to action in working with women, your goals, and what you've got going on for 2024.
I am launching a new group coaching program. And so what we do is we help women work through emotional eating, because emotional eating is a very heavy topic for a lot of people. And it often comes with shame and guilt. And it's kind of a cycle when people start to emotional eat, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So I work with the kind of women that have, been dieting their entire lives, and they're just sick of the dieting cycle, and they don't know how to relate to food anymore. All of the food is stressful. I help relieve all of that shame and guilt around emotional eating. So we're launching a new group coaching program coming up, and you can find more information about that on my website at tinasarena.com. And I also work with clients one-on-one too, if they want a more intimate setting where we meet weekly. I also hold space for them. We meditate together, and we work on their goals when it comes to, food, nutrition, and fitness.
So you're in the virtual space. So obviously, in terms of the reach and your connections, they go far and wide, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with eating disorders, I know that that's a very carefully curated approach. What are some of the self-care goals that you have for women that you support them in getting to that new level of self?
It's so individual. It varies between person to person because it varies on what that person's goals are. But generally, I really want to remove the shame and the guilt that women feel around eating, because I hope to tell or impact on to women that, we were raised with food as love. Because imagine when you were a child or a baby and you started to cry. When you cried, your mother came to you and fed you, and that was how you received love at the time, right? So I want to impart on women that it's not bad that you have equated food to love, but maybe that's just not working for you anymore. So we need to find new ways for you to find joy in your life. Like, if food is the most exciting thing in your life, then obviously you're going to want to eat because there's nothing else that's better than food in your life. So we kind of go back and talk about their dreams, the life that they want to live and how they want to feel in their life. So we find activities, if someone wants to feel, like I said, more excited, then we think about activities that makes them feel more excited. And then we work on scheduling that into their life so that they can start to feel that way without turning to food. So basically learning new coping mechanisms that doesn't involve food.
How long of a period of time? Because obviously this is a lifetime type of evolvement that going forward things are going to be different for for the woman who has that eating disorder. What are some elements that are helpful for her to have in her support system corner as she's making the change to have a better relationship with food?
So I think the number one thing is community and accountability. When we're making lifestyle changes, if you can't find anyone to relate to, then I think that's the first thing that you need to go out and find. And maybe it's as simple as following people on social media so that you can find motivation from them. But even more than that, I think it really matters that you have friends that are doing the same thing as you are with the same goals, because when we're changing our lifestyle, it's usually that your friends kind of represent the old lifestyle. So if you continue to stay with them, then it's gonna breed like more of that, right? But if you want to change it, then you may also need to change your friend circle a little bit, start introducing people that go for walks instead of going out for drinks, and inviting them out more, or maybe, because that's the number one thing that gets you, that encourages the lifestyle change, when you're able to find friends to do it with you, because if you do it by yourself, it just feels lonely and you don't get quite as far. So I think the most important thing would definitely be find a community support around it.
That's yes. I couldn't agree with you more in terms of making sure that there's that backing in the corner. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We will be right back after this.
This is Madeline Blair, the host of Unlocked, where we open possibilities for when the unexpected happens. Join me Thursdays at noon and again at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Business Network, right here on E360 TV.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. My guest today, Tina Huynh, certified meditation teacher, wellness advocate, holding space in working with women with eating disorders and helping them to redefine a new level of self-care. Tina, where are you on social media?
My Instagram is Tinas_Arena. So TINAS_ARENA_. You can find it all in my.
Gotcha. And I see that we also have, you're also on TikTok as well. So same handle. And then of course, yes. And then of course, if our viewers have information or they have questions regarding just finding out more information about your program, let's talk about your website one last time.
It's all at tinasarena.com. There's a link there to become a VIP client. And there's also a section that talks about the group coaching program.
All right. And as we're turning into 2024, anything else that you have going on in the pipeline that you're unveiling just at some point in the calendar year as we're tuning into a new year?
Those are the main focuses for me, the VIP coaching clients and the group coaching program. But I'm going to be continuing to release more podcast episodes as well. It's also called Tina's Arena, so you can find me on there too.
Okay, so Tina's Arena is your podcast, and we are out of time today. Tina, thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing valuable information. I appreciate you being here.
I'm so excited. I love this conversation. I thought it was great. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are tuning into us, remember that you can find us on E360 TV at Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In addition to that, we are also on the web. We are www.thehealthrevolutiontv.com. Definitely check us out if you have any ideas that you'd like to share with us in terms of topics, and we would love to hear from you. So be sure to subscribe to our newsletter so that you can stay connected and find out upcoming info as we are rounding things out for 2023 and going into 2024. So that is all our time today. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. We are wrapping up season 1. We appreciate this level of connection. Please don't forget to subscribe to whichever channel in which you have connected with us, and the show tabs are at the bottom. And as we are ending 2023, we definitely wish you endless blessings as we go into 2024. For everyone tuning in, thank you so much for watching. Take care. Have a good rest of your day, evening, and remainder of the year. Happy New Year. Take care, everyone.